If migration stopped tomorrow, the world as you know, it would begin to collapse. And it would happen fast. Your supermarket shelves would start to empty. Hospitals would struggle to find enough staff. Construction sites would fall silent. And the economies we take for granted, the ones built on decades of growth, would start to shrink. This isn't just a political talking point. It's simple, cold, hard arithmetic, and it's the truth that gets drowned out by all the noise about mass migration. Every single country, to keep its economy alive, needs three fundamental things: workers, consumers, and taxpayers. When birth rates fall, and they've been falling in almost every developed nation for decades, those three pillars start to crack. Think about countries like Japan, Germany, Italy, and even Australia. Their populations are aging rapidly. That means fewer people are working, fewer new families are being formed, and more people are depending on pensions and healthcare systems. But who pays for those systems? The younger generation of taxpayers. And when that younger generation is too small, the entire balance collapses. The economy doesn't just slow down. It actively contracts. Shops start closing. Public services disappear. Governments find themselves struggling to pay for the most basic needs of their citizens. So you see, migration isn't a burden. It's the oxygen that keeps aging economies from suffocating. It's the lifeline that nobody wants to talk about. Let's break it down with a simple thought experiment. Imagine a small town of just 100 people. 50 of them are over the age of 60, retired or close to it. 30 are working-age adults, running the shops, staffing the local clinic, and teaching in the school. The last 20 are children. Now, every year, 10 of those older residents retire, but only 5 young people from the town are old enough to enter the workforce and replace them. What happens next? Without new people moving in, that town slowly but surely runs out of energy. The local farms can't find enough hands to tend the fields. The shops start closing earlier. Now, multiply that small town by 10,000, and you have the reality facing most modern nations today. This is precisely why economists, behind closed doors, quietly refer to migrants as invisible economic heroes. They fill the jobs that others are leaving behind. They start small businesses at a higher rate than native-born populations. And they spend their money, which circulates through the entire economy, creating more jobs and more opportunities for everyone. But here is the most fascinating part. While this reality is universally understood among economists and policymakers, it almost never reaches the public in a clear, honest way. So, the big question is, if migration is so economically essential, why is the term mass migration so often framed as a terrifying crisis? The answer is simple and a little cynical. Fear is a powerful tool. It distracts people, it divides them, and most importantly, it sells a simple story. When an economy is straining under the weight of inequality, when inflation is making life unaffordable, or when political mismanagement is failing the public, leaders need to target something visible to blame for the problems. Migrants become the perfect, easy scapegoat. Look, every economic system naturally produces winners and losers. But instead of tackling the deep, structural issues like stagnant wages for the working class, the crisis of unaffordable housing, massive corporate tax avoidance, or jobs being lost to automation, the narrative, it's shifted. Suddenly, the story is, it's the migrants' fault. This is a diversion tactic as old as history itself. It's easier to point a finger at a newcomer than it is to admit the system itself is flawed. The uncomfortable truth is that migration isn't the problem. The system that manages or often mismanages it is. When governments create policies that allow billionaires and huge corporations to hoard wealth and pay minimal taxes, while at the same time chronically underfunding public infrastructure, migration becomes a visible stress point. Hospitals feel overwhelmed, not because of the new arrivals, but because they were never given the resources to handle population growth in the first place. Housing becomes expensive, Not because migrants are taking all the homes, but because there hasn't been enough investment in affordable housing for decades. Schools feel overcrowded for the same reason. It's like blaming the new passengers for putting a strain on a ship that was already taking on water. Meanwhile, a great irony is playing out in the background. The very same economies that publicly decry migration are heavily, and I mean heavily, dependent on migrant labor in crucial sectors like construction, agriculture, healthcare, and technology. They quietly recruit nurses, engineers, farm workers, and university students from abroad, while loudly debating border control on the evening news. One story is shown to the public. The other, more truthful story, is hidden in plain sight. But let's step back from the economic data for a moment. Behind all these numbers are real people. Families chasing an opportunity for a better life. Workers sending money back home to support their loved ones. Students looking for a future they can't find where they were born. Think about every great city in human history, from ancient Rome to modern-day New York, London, or Tokyo. They were all built on the movement of people. Ideas, skills, and innovation flow where people flow. Without migration, our species would likely still be living in small, isolated pockets, cut off from new perspectives and doomed to repeat the same mistakes. It's the movement of people that has made us who we are, as a species, as diverse cultures, and as complex civilizations. To deny the role of migration is to deny a fundamental part of our own human story. So let's go back to our initial thought. What would actually happen if migration truly, completely stopped tomorrow? In the healthcare sector, systems would face critical, immediate shortages of doctors, nurses, and elder care workers. In agriculture, food production would slow dramatically as farms lost their labor force, leading to higher prices and food shortages. In the tech industry, the pipeline of innovation would dry up without the constant influx of global talent. And for governments, they would face massive budget shortfalls as their tax bases shrink. In less than a single decade, economic growth in most developed nations would halt completely. And social welfare systems, pensions, public health care would begin to crumble under the immense weight of their aging populations. Economists have a name for this scenario: the demographic time bomb. And for many countries, migration is the only thing preventing that bomb from exploding. So when you hear people arguing about mass migration, it's important to realize they're often arguing about the wrong thing entirely. The real issue isn't the number of people crossing borders. It's how our societies choose to manage opportunity, how we ensure fairness, and how we distribute resources and wealth. The question we should be asking isn't how do we stop migration? It should be, how do we build intelligent, humane systems that integrate people effectively, share prosperity fairly, and build a society that works for everyone, both newcomers and long-term residents? Because migration isn't a temporary crisis or a short-term fix. It is a permanent, essential feature of our interconnected global economy. And without it, collapse isn't a distant theory. It's a countdown that has already begun. In the end, migration isn't the enemy. It's a mirror. It reflects a society's true character, how it treats outsiders, how it shares its wealth, and how honestly it plans for its own future. Also, when people talk about migrants, they usually picture the ones they see every day: the delivery riders, the drivers, the shop attendants, the students serving coffee. They're visible, and they're the face of migration that everyone meets on the street. But what's rarely seen are the thousands of skilled professionals who also migrated: the engineers building infrastructure, the accountants keeping companies running, the doctors and researchers holding the health system together. Migration fills every layer of the economy, not just the ones we notice. The problem isn't who migrants are, it's how narrowly the story about them is told. If we keep blaming the mirror for showing us the cracks in our own walls, we will never, ever fix the house that we all have to live in. Thanks for watching. If this gave you something to think about, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that goes beyond the headlines.